They said I was crazy. That no one in their right mind would build a dam alone, in secret, on land that everyone else thought was worthless. But I knew what I was doing. Because long before the HOA came, before the cookie-cutter houses and manicured lawns, before Karen and her army of rules and fines, that valley was mine. And when they stole it from me, brick by brick, signature by forged signature, I swore I'd let nature take it back. It started 10 years ago. I inherited 240 acres of low-lying land at the base of the foothills from my grandfather, Old Man Calhoun, the kind of man who could stare down a storm and not blink. He'd worked the land his whole life, built a small cattle ranch, and dammed the northern creek to form a private reservoir. Nothing fancy, but it worked. The dam fed irrigation lines, and the runoff made the valley lush and green even in dry seasons. After he passed, the property came to me, deeded, registered, and fenced. It was my quiet place. Until the county changed. Until development came creeping in like a sickness. The Ridgeview Estates HOA moved in first, buying up the nearby hills, clearing trees, paving roads, and laying foundations where my grandfather used to graze cattle. Their glossy billboards promised luxury mountain living. Within 5 years, they'd turned the wild slopes into a shiny grid of beige homes and white picket fences. But they didn't stop there. One morning, I drove up to check on the dam, only to find bulldozers parked on my dirt road. My fence was gone. My private property signs gone. Instead, there was a shiny metal sign that read, Future Phase 3, Ridgeview Lakefront Homes. I thought it was a mistake. I really did. I called the county, showed my deeds, my maps, the water rights that had been in my family since the 1940s. The clerk smiled and told me it was being reviewed. The HOA's lawyers had new documentation, suggesting the valley was unclaimed floodplain. That was the day I learned what power money really has. Within 3 months, they'd bulldozed the upper pasture, poured foundations, and laid plumbing. I watched them build on my land. The new residents moved in, families, kids, retirees, and no one asked who owned the ground under their feet. The HOA president, a woman named Karen Whitmore, acted like she owned the whole county. She even sent me a letter, demanding that I remove any unsightly agricultural structures, meaning my barn and dam, because they clashed with the neighborhood aesthetic. I laughed at first, then I realized she was serious. When I refused, she escalated. She called the sheriff, claimed I was trespassing on community land. They made me step off my own soil. I went to court. I showed my grandfather's deeds, old survey maps, the original dam permits. But the HOA's lawyers outspent me, outmaneuvered me, and used loopholes I didn't even know existed. The judge ruled that the land boundaries were under dispute pending clarification, meaning construction could continue. That was the moment I stopped fighting them with paper. Instead, I waited. They finished building all 135 homes that spring. Brand new cul-de-sacs, streetlights, and even a Ridgeview Lake, which was nothing more than my reservoir dressed up with a fancy sign. They'd drained part of it to make a pretty shoreline and built a clubhouse near the water's edge. On weekends, I'd drive by and watch them barbecuing, riding jet skis, kids laughing, completely oblivious that they were living on a lie. The irony, every drop of water under their docks was still controlled by my dam upstream. And every single one of their deeds, even the ones they'd bought at premium prices, depended on that dam's flow. Then came the drought. That summer was brutal, no rain for 8 weeks straight. The grass turned brown, and water levels dropped dangerously low. The HOA started rationing water for lawns. They sent me another letter, this one accusing me of diverting water illegally, and threatening to sue if I didn't restore normal levels. That's when I smiled for the first time in months. See, the dam was old, but not weak. I'd reinforced it myself with modern gates and a manual release valve that could redirect the entire flow into the canyon beyond. My grandfather built it to survive floods. But he also built it to control them. I didn't have to blow anything up. I didn't have to damage a thing. All I had to do was turn a wheel. It was midnight when I did it. The moon was full, silver light glinting off the metal as I opened the floodgate, one slow creak at a time. At first, nothing but a trickle. Then the pressure built. The sound grew into a low roar as the water rushed out, months of stored rain, snowmelt, and spring runoff, all unleashed in one continuous torrent. I stood there on the ridge, watching it surge down the valley like nature reclaiming its due. By dawn, Ridgeview Estates was a lake again. The cul-de-sacs were rivers. The polished driveways turned into muddy streams. Lawns vanished under brown water. The clubhouse roof barely showed above the surface. And that fake, Ridgeview Lake, it had become the real thing, swallowing every inch of land they'd stolen. Karen and the HOA board called it a natural disaster. The county declared an emergency. But I knew the truth, they'd built where they never should have. They came to me days later, standing on my hill, looking desperate. Karen's designer shoes sank into the mud. "Mr. Calhoun," she said, trying to sound polite, "we need your help controlling the dam. The water hasn't stopped rising." I looked her straight in the eye. "That's not my dam anymore, remember? You said this was community land." Her face turned pale. She stammered something about a misunderstanding, about how we could reach an agreement. But I just turned away and walked back to my truck. The county's engineers eventually shut the dam down and drained what they could. But the damage was done. The foundations cracked, the soil shifted, and half those brand new houses were condemned. Insurance didn't cover it, they called it floodplain mismanagement. The developers went bankrupt. The HOA dissolved within the year. When the dust settled, I got a letter from the county clerk. After re-examining the records, they acknowledged the original boundaries were correct. The land, all of it, was legally mine again. Funny thing, though, I didn't rebuild. I didn't restore the homes or sell the land. I let the valley stay the way it ended up, a marsh of reeds, frogs, and willow trees, with water glinting where driveways used to be. Sometimes I go down there, stand by the water's edge, and listen to the wind whistle through the empty shells of houses. It's peaceful now. People say revenge doesn't fix anything. Maybe they're right, but when I see the sunlight shimmer over that still water, I think of my grandfather, how he'd nod approvingly and say, "The land always remembers who it belongs to." And I smile, because in the end, I didn't take revenge. I just let nature do what nature does best, restore balance.